Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to At Home with Hayley. If you can all just pop in the chat box that you can hear me okay. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. All right, so good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Majority of you, as I can see on the call, are regulars and have been listening week in, week out. We do have quite a few new people that have joined the webinar this week. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Hayley Andrews. I am the co-founder of Your Freedom Empire. I am a mentor, coach, and speaker. I am a property investor, professional property investor. I've been in the industry now for 18 years, and I've done everything from buy-to-let straight through to commercial development. So a bit of everything in there. I focus mainly on HMOs, serviced accommodation and commercial, but I also do all of the other stuff, the smaller HMOs and the buy-to-lets and flips as well. So I'm here today to talk to you about an update of what's going on in the market right now from my power team, to talk to you about all things property, but we also have a very special guest today who I will introduce a little bit later on. So let's move on to the update then. So it's going to be a fairly short update this week, mainly because there hasn't been that much change from last week. So for those of you that are regular, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but for those of you that are new, I will go through every single power team member. So we're starting off with a surveyor this week. So calling into the surveyors, asking them how they are doing business at the moment and how things are being affected, etc. Now, as you know, from the last couple of weeks, the surveyors have been back at work now for the last just over a week, nearly 2 weeks. So on a local level, there's been no real change. There's more instructions coming through, of course, because now the market is active, and they are still being asked to assume a valuation of the 1st of February 2020, which is pre-pandemic. And lenders are just asking, and this was very much a confused mixed message from the surveyor yesterday. So I did say, you know, are you being instructed to down value? Are you being instructed to give a forecast if the house prices are going to drop, etc.? And the message was, we are being asked to assume a value of the 1st of February, but we are being asked our opinion in terms of any expected changes in value in different parts of the industry. So that's very much the message. They're saying that at the moment it's very difficult for them to do that because valuers simply at this stage do not have enough data to predict the market or how it will change. In terms of residential properties, the feelings around residential and lettings, so our investment properties, it's expected to come back to full strength. From the surveyors that I'm speaking to. There is a concern, however, around commercials. So commercial units and shops and offices probably being the biggest concern. And the reason around this is because a lot of companies have sourced different ways to do business. And also, not only have they sourced different ways to do business, they've actually looked at making their businesses more sufficient, cutting back to obviously put their business in a better position to move forward. Now, in doing this, they've handed notices in, perhaps not renewed their leases, etc. And there's also been quite a lot of businesses that have gone out of business or decided to just close down. So with that being said, that's the side of the market that there's a big question mark hanging over at the moment, where surveyors are being more cautious and lenders are being more cautious as well. And that's just a result of it's a simple laws of supply and demand there. If there's no demand for offices, or there's less demand for offices, of course the prices for those units on a commercial valuation is obviously less. The rent will have to decrease, and in which case will decrease the value of that overall unit. That's pretty much on the valuation side. So with the residential, there doesn't seem to be any down values at the moment. And banks are kind of sticking with that, or lenders, sorry, are sticking with that 1st of February pre-pandemic valuation. Everyone is back at work now. They have guidelines, of course, to follow with the, wearing the protective equipment, etc., and social distancing. But that's pretty much the update from the surveyor. So it is business as usual with a few quirks. Applying or adhering to those social distancing, etc. But the instructions are coming through. There is a bit of a backlog there, of course, as there is with every power team member, due to the fact that they haven't been able to get out and do their job, basically. But that is obviously clearing down, and they are all pretty much back out and doing physical valuations now. So moving on then, so I've added the sales and lettings in. And I thought this would be a very good idea because, a lot of you are already investors. And if you are looking, of course, to become an investor and invest in UK property, this is also important for you to understand. So from the lettings side, just my lettings agency has done 5 lets this week. And so, viewings are back to normal, again, adhering to all of the social distancing, etc. But everything is kind of slowly getting back to normal, and the lets have already started to pick back up. So 5 lets this week, I think that's pretty decent. A few other lettings agencies that I've spoken to are very much in the same boat, and majority of them are open now and back in business. From the sales side of it, it's gone mad. I don't know whether this is, well, I actually think this is because obviously we haven't been able to get out and view properties for so long now, or we've only been able to do a virtual viewing, that we are now getting out there actually checking on all of the properties that we've been watching during the lockdown. So it has gone a little bit mental in the sales side of it. And just where I live, I've seen, sold. And just from my own personal experience, so I view quite a few properties this week, and I viewed one last week as well. And I've made 3 offers, and all 3 offers went to best and final offer, and all 3 of them actually went around £10,000 to £15,000 over the asking price, and I lost out on all 3 of them. So I'm gutted about that, but I do think there's a lot of competition in the market at the moment, and there are quite a lot of amateurs that are pushing the sale price up. So it's either that or I'm just becoming more of a Scrooge in my older age. But I have noticed that a lot of sales are going through. So we're having lots of offers accepted, and in the areas that I've been looking to purchase over that asking price as well. There is a lot of competition out there. I have had an offer accepted this week as well, so it's not all bad news. But we're out there, we're doing viewings, we're wearing our gloves, we're wearing our masks, we're not shaking hands or things like that, and we're not touching anything. We're letting the estate agents open doors and things like that. So, there's that's kind of gone relatively back to normal. I do think in terms of the sales prices, a personal opinion here, I do think that house prices will drop. I don't think that it will be a long-term thing, and I have kind of said this throughout the whole of the 9-10 weeks now. But I do think that we will have a fall in house prices fairly soon. So moving on to the broker then. The broker is very similar to last week. So the lenders are looking for everything, including your inside leg measurement. They are also looking for you to obviously prove your affordability. And this is not just proof of purchase or proof of funds. This is also proof of being able to cover your rental payments if the tenant cannot pay. And that's for at least 6 months as well. So at the very least now you need to have your deposit money and 6 months worth of rental payments in order to get those applications through. I want to prepare you, so pre-warn you. So I've had quite a few people that have come to me over the last week and the last couple of weeks, and they are just absolutely frustrated at the questions that the lenders are asking, and they are, they're saying, well, is it worth it? They are asking me so many questions, changing the goalpost, having to give this, that, the other, quite slowing how they are doing that, which is obviously slowing down the purchase for us. And quite frustrating from an investor point of view, because of course we're spending a lot of time there gathering extra bits of information and repeated information in some cases as well. And what you need to ask yourself here is, personally, if that lending is going to make sure that investment that you are looking to purchase is giving you a much better return, because your exposure is only 25%, and of course the bank is taking the 75%, giving you the 75% loan to value there, then, yes, it is worth it. But this is something that you have to answer yourself. If you have the cash available and you would rather right now just purchase cash because it's much obviously easier for you to do that, and you're prepared to tie your money up for 12 months and then perhaps finance it in 12 months time, then that's fine, you can do that. But if you can't tie your funds up, or you don't have that funds available, then the lending route is the only route that you can go down, and unfortunately you will have to jump through these loops. And this is something that we've always had to do. And different lenders are different. Different lenders will ask for more and more, and other lenders are quite easy to work with. But at the end of the day, if you want that finance, then you have to answer those questions. So suck it up is my advice, or pay cash. A little bit of an update then on the buy-to-let arena. So we have Mortgage Works, TMW, Coventry Building Society and BM Solutions. They are all offering buy-to-let products up to 75% loan to value. And that's just for buy-to-lets. A couple of them will do Scotland as well, and all of them will do England and Wales. We have for the HMO and buy-to-let, so we have Paragon, Kent Reliance together. They're not back currently, but they are back in June. So together we'll be back in the market in June, and the new one there is West One. So they are looking at buy-to-lets and HMOs up to 6 people, so up to 6 people, and they are looking at a value there of over £75,000 or more for your buy-to-lets, and a minimum value for your HMOs £100,000. And so they are also offering up to 75% loan to value. So this doesn't mean that, if you go for a Paragon product and you're looking at a 6-bed HMO, that you are certain to get 75% loan to value. It is depending on the asset quality, the area, and the lender, and you as well. So whether you are doing this through your own personal name or through a limited company structure, they will check you out personally also. The interest rates there are around 3.4 up to around the 3.99. So that's pretty average. We have, of course, foundation loans, which are going to be offering up to 8 people, so larger HMOs. So they're looking at that. They are, of course, a specialist lender, and they have an awesome whole range of products available for you across England and Wales. They don't do Scotland, unfortunately. They will offer up to 75% loan to value, and their interest rates are ranging from 3 to 7%. So moving on to the builder then. So I've added the builder in this week so that you guys can, some of you have projects ongoing at the moment. And of course, those projects have been delayed due to obviously builders, materials, things like that, not being able to actually get access to the materials and builders not being on site. So that's, no fault of anyone at all. So I thought it'd be a good idea for me to actually get the builder's point of view here and see how they feel things are moving forward. So short-term effects, they are still struggling to get materials, and some labourers are actually not able to come back to work due to childcare, which is the feedback I'm getting across a few different builders now. But the materials at present, they're still looking, they're still short of several materials. Some companies have only just started producing again last week. So plaster, for example, is quite difficult to get hold of at the moment. And then there's certain jobs that they can do, and there's many jobs that they can't as well. So, if you're towards the end of your project, your carpet shops and things like that, blinds, furniture, they're not actually open yet, and they're quite difficult to get hold of. And so that last phase of your renovation is proving quite difficult at the moment. But progress is being made. Of course, there is, a backlog there, and majority or all projects that were left due pre-pandemic and lockdown are now pushed back 2 months or so because of the lockdown, which is to be expected. So solicitor, no different information from last week. Everything their side is pretty much back to normal. They're able to do all searches. All local authorities are open to obtain those local searches as well. They've still said stay away from chains. As an investor, we stay away from chains anyway, just because we lose control there. More lenders are coming back into the market. They've confirmed that. They do think that lots of deals are going to be, there's going to be lots of deals to had. There is a backlog there that they are working through, again, to be expected. So what I would say to you guys is really be mindful of the fact that, yes, your project may have taken 2 months longer, or it's 2 months behind, or your broker hasn't been able to push your finance through because, of course, they haven't been able to. Because lenders are too busy dealing with all of these, all of the calls into their call centres and things like that. So there's been a real strain on the industry. So actually, be really mindful of that when you're speaking to your power team, and don't think that they're not doing something or they haven't pushed it through lack of wanting to or commitment to you as the investor in your business. It is purely down to the fact that they've had their hands tied and they haven't been able to. They can only work with what they have. They are also relying on different people to produce different parts and bits of information for them to do their job correctly for you. So just understand that right now, as much as I understand it's frustrating, and I'm going through a few purchases myself, so I know exactly what you're going through and feel your pain, but understand that your power team are there, they're working for you, and they're doing the best they possibly can. Coming out of course, lockdown has been difficult. They're having to adapt and change, and there is a huge backlog there for them to get working through. And so be prepared for there to be delays here, especially with the lending side. It's going to take longer to get those lenders approved and the mortgages through. So last but not least, we have our foreign exchange. Remember, guys, and this is, some of you may be trading currency, but we're not. So majority of you are only looking to move money into the UK to purchase UK investment properties. So just remember that. So take advantage when you can. Speak to your foreign exchange broker, and so that you understand, and you can protect yourself to understand what you can buy with your pound, and how much pounds you have. So the pound has held its ground this week, but it's had its ups and downs. There was hope of a Brexit breakthrough earlier in the week, which sent the pound soaring 1% within a couple of hours. But the optimism fizzled out quite quickly, and the sterling then retreated again. But it does go to show that Brexit is back in focus, so the Great British Pound gains are likely to remain limited. Of course, if by some miraculous turn of events a breakthrough were to come out, the pound will skyrocket. Suggestions from the foreign exchange broker is get your foreign exchange account up and running. So guys, all of you that have been on mentorship, and any of you that haven't, this is one part of the power team that we can actually put you in contact with. Get your account up and running. It's free to do. There is no standing charge there or anything like that. You can get yourself through compliance. And at least here, if you're doing that, so you get your account open, it's there, it's ready to go. So at least then you have the option to act, rather than going through the compliance or passing the compliance and missing out. So the account is free, as I said. It is in your interest to get that foreign exchange account, and this is obviously just for our international investors here. But get that account up and running, and then you can speak to your broker then about possibly even putting stops in place, so that if you can put a stop in place, it will trigger, so that of course you can still take advantage and you can minimize your risk as much as possible there. And that's pretty much it, really. At least then you have a very good idea. And remember, we're not trading in currency here. If you are, then you may be looking at this very differently. But what we are looking to do is to understand what we can buy, and how much pounds we have. So that the idea is there to get the account open, speak to your foreign exchange broker, maybe put a stop in place, so that you have that trigger point. And then if there are any changes within the market, then of course you understand what your risk is, what you're going to get, and you've minimized everything as much as possible. So that's pretty much it. So hopefully that was that's an overall view of the power team that we're working with currently. I've got lots of questions that's come through already, but we'll go to the questions after our first guest. So that's our update this week. And then what we're going to do is we have a very, very special guest with us this week. So we have a very good friend of mine, and a superstar businessman, and just all-round top guy. I'm going to let him do his own introduction, but we have Neel Barchha. Neel, are you there?
I am. I'm just switching on. Hi.
Hello. So welcome to my virtual sofa, and we have lots of people on the call that are really eager to watch your section. But before we jump into that, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background and then what you're going to be talking to us about today.
Okay, so my name's Dr. Neel Barchha. Well, I'm a doctor by profession, i.e. a dentist actually. But my main focus is actually on the psychology of communication and negotiation. So I actually lecture to dentists quite a lot about communicating with patients, and I communicate and how to communicate with their teams as well. Now, one of the main things I would say here is that Hayley has painted me as a success, but I've actually failed more times than probably most of you in many, many different ways. But one thing I have learned from all of this is actually that one of my main reasons for failing was communication. So if I've not communicated something properly to a team or to an agent or to someone or a patient, even in fact, it's usually communication or negotiation that's failed along that way. So really what I'd like to do today is actually talk to you about how to communicate effectively and how to minimize those risks that sometimes things get lost in communication and then they cause problems later on down the line. And as I said about failure, failure is okay. You will have a few deals, as you said, Hayley, that you put bids in, you read something wrong occasionally and it doesn't go right, and that's okay. The trick is to fail forward, as I call from it. Failing forward means learning from it, means actually taking something away from that and actually using it in your next deal that you try to put in place. I mean, Hayley, like I said, has painted me as some sort of success, but what is success? I think from your perspective and probably from my perspective, the way that I look at it is it's being able to do what you want to do when you want to do with whoever you want to do for as long as you want to do it. And I think what Hayley's going to do over your time with her, I know we've got a few new people on this call, is to give you the strategies for that. What I do is I actually teach you the mindset, the soft skills, the ability to be able to communicate effectively with the people around you and to kind of help you make those next steps and get out of that comfort zone. I know that's a phrase that's used and banded out quite a bit, but just to give you that growth and to give you the soft skills so that you don't make the same mistakes that I have, and I'm sure many other people have as well. So can we just go on to the first slide?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I have no idea how to use this. So this is about the
camera off. So I'll let you take it away then. Okay. Over to you.
Over to me. No pressure then. Okay, so the psychology of negotiation. Now, the psychology of negotiation it's multifactorial. There's a load of different things that go into it. But as property investors, you are going to be doing a heck of a lot of negotiation, whether that is negotiating agents' fees, whether that's negotiating sale prices, whatever that happens to be, you're going to be doing a lot of it. So actually what I want to do is teach you how to get the upper hand, but not only have the other party go for it, but also thank you for it too, because that's actually quite important. We're going to go through the different types of negotiation as well today, but one of the main things is going to be to make sure that at the end of it, you've either got a really good relationship with the person moving forward, or alternatively, you've got the best possible deal and you can walk away happy. So moving on to the next slide, if that's all right. Now, this is a huge thing. A lot of what people go on courses for is to learn how to do the technical aspects of something. If you want to trade stocks, I heard you talking about Forex trading. If you want to learn those, how to set up the website, how to get the team together. Well, actually, what the Carnegie Institute of Technology has come up with, and they've been saying this for years, and I think this is very, very true, is that actually only 15% of your success is actually technical knowledge, and 85% of it is your mindset, actually why you're doing something. And the struggle is real. You have to, you can't just suddenly go from being something to something else without changing yourself. And actually that buildup of difficulty is what makes you grow. Now, there are shortcuts to getting to that stage, and that's what I'm going to help you with today. I'm going to help you with a few different little steps in that growth cycle. One of them is called EQ. EQ is what's called emotional quotient. Emotional quotient is very different than IQ. Now, your IQ is how clever you are or how intelligent you are on paper. Your EQ is actually how you communicate with people, how you read people, and how you alter your body language, your tonality, and your words to be able to influence those people how you want them to do. And one of the things that I always talk about, you're going to get a lot of triangles when you come to my webinars, because I like triangles. 3 things that really make a difference and help you make that next push. One of them is your state, your ability to be able to change how you feel quite quickly. Well, people think that your state can change if you want to get into a good mood when you're in a bad mood. For some reason, people seem to think that that takes quite a long time. But actually, somebody can put you in a bad mood just like that. Well, I argue the opposite. I think actually you can train yourself to be in a good mood if somebody puts you in a bad mood very, very quickly. And that state change is very important, because I think if you can get that, what that basically means is that you can change the way that you feel and in turn change the way that other people react to you as well. So one of the triangles, the first triangle I'm going to come up with is called state, strategy, story. Now, let's say, for example, you want to lose a few pounds, yeah? And you're feeling really good about yourself. Everything's going fantastic. You're feeling really good. And the story that you're telling yourself is that I can do this. It's feasible. And you go online and you look at some strategies for losing weight. And you look at it and you think, of all these strategies, the one I'm going to pick is the Krispy Kreme donut. The Krispy Kreme donut strategy is going to be a strategy where you eat 36 donuts a day and you don't do any exercise and you watch TV, and then essentially what's going to happen is you're going to lose loads of weight. I don't think that strategy is going to work. And that means that that triangle hasn't been fulfilled. That means you're not going to get the growth that you're looking for. So you're in the right state. You're telling yourself the right stories that you can do it, but your strategy is wrong. So if the strategy is wrong, you're not going to get things, you're not going to get that growth that you're looking for. If your state is wrong, if you're just in a bad mood, if you're in a bad mood and things aren't necessarily going right, but you're cutting calories, you're eating well, and your story is, I can do this. So yeah, I'm trying something new. That's not gonna work either, because if you're in a bad mood, what's gonna happen is essentially you're going to associate negative feelings associated with that growth, and you don't want that moving forward. So we've got to learn as well to change your state. And that's one of the things that I'm going to talk to, and I do talk to a lot of people about. And the last one is your story. If you say that you want to lose weight, say for instance, or you want to get into property or whatever, but I've failed so many times before, I've tried everything. There is no chance I'm going to succeed in this property thing because I've tried everything. Have you really tried everything? Have you actually tried everything? Because if you haven't tried everything, what are you doing here? Your state might be right. Your strategy might be perfect. You're working with Hayley and Paul, you're investing in property, or you're working with a fitness trainer, a personal trainer, you're feeling in a good mood. But if you've got in your head that you've already tried everything and this is just I'm going to give it a go, but I know it's not going to work because nothing's worked for me before, that's not going to work either. So that's one of the things also that I'm going to help with the mindset, is basically helping you get your story right. And one of the key words in that is yet. One of the things I say is, even when my kids come to me and say, Daddy, I can't do it, I say, I can't do it yet. And they go absolutely crazy about it. They hate it, but it gets that word in their head. And when we do our webinars and when we do our seminars, I talk a lot about NLP. I talk about neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming is talking to yourself in the right words. And we'll talk about how people move their eyes, whether people are visual, whether people are auricular, whether they listen, and how people sound. And we're also going to talk about whether people are kinesthetic, whether they like the feeling words, and how you can communicate with people that you're negotiating with in that way. Because actually, if you can communicate with people in the way that their brain works through neuro-linguistic programming, actually what you can end up with is a situation where they are completely in sync with you, and you can get exactly what you want from that person, whether it be an agent, whether it be a seller, whether it be a vendor, and they will thank you for it, because very few people have these tricks and tips in their head on how to do things. Hayley, can we move on to the next slide? So rapport. Now, if you're doing this when you're on here, chances are you're probably already good at rapport. I know Hayley is absolutely exceptional. I'm sure she teaches these kind of things. Now, rapport is basically how much I like you and how much you like me. And there are a million different books on this in the world, but there are some very easy tips to getting it. But first of all, why do we need rapport? Well, let's be honest. If we like someone, we're going to give them things. We're going to let people get away with things a lot more if we like them. For instance, I have great rapport with my best friends. And as a result, I let them get away with all sorts of stuff with me because, they're my best friends. And the reason we have rapport is because we are similar. There's a phrase in psychology which basically says your differences attract you, your similarities keep you together. So essentially what you're looking for when you are negotiating, or whether you're hiring people or team members, is rapport. Do they have rapport with you? And do you have rapport with them? Because if you don't have rapport, then essentially you're just two strangers, and two strangers trying to come to a deal about how to buy a property, or whether it be or whatever that actually is. it's not going to happen very easily. It's going to add a lot of friction to the whole situation. So if you can build rapport very, very easily, then essentially what that's going to do is that's going to make sure that you have a very good understanding and a very good ongoing relationship with that person. Now, human beings are very tribal. Now, I don't know if you've read a lot about human beings. I certainly have. Human beings, we used to live in tribes, and it's very important for us to have other people of similarity around us. It's important for us to have connection with people, and that's something I'm going to talk about as well, human needs. We like people who like us. That's basically the upshot of it. You know, you can use the laws of reciprocation by giving people gifts, and they will like you. But actually, if you really want people to like you, ask them for favors. Abraham Lincoln used to do this a lot, and he used to ask to borrow friends from people that didn't like him. And as a result, the psychology of it was, if they lent him the book, their brain sort of thought, well, if I've lent this person a book, I must like them. And then the relationship grew by almost taking from the person, not just giving. It was a very interesting psychological experiment. Now, we are very conditionable. That's why advertising works. You know, how many times have you gone past the McDonald's, seen the Golden Arches, and realized, oh, I quite fancy a milkshake. You don't fancy a milkshake. You just associated the pleasure of the Golden Arches with the taste of the milkshake to the sugar rush, and your brain has seen the Golden Arches and done the jump and gone, go get yourself a milkshake, Neil, which you can tell has happened quite a few times. Now, rapport. Going back to rapport, basically, there are quite a few tricks to how to do it. So, for instance, if you see someone like me that's just gesticulating quite a lot, if you're talking to me and you keep your hands down here, that's not going to give us that much rapport. But if you're animated as well and you're talking at the same time as I'm talking, then actually what happens is I look at you and I don't think consciously that guy over there or that girl over there is moving their hands. What I'm saying is actually they're doing the same as me. If they smile in the same way, sometimes I've even mirrored people's breathing patterns just to get instant rapport. If they cross their legs, I don't know if you can see that, and you gently but slowly do the same thing, then essentially what can happen is you can get on a level with someone that allows you to create a connection that doesn't happen automatically. That does happen very automatically. The next thing I was going to talk about was active listening. Now, this is a bit weird for me because normally when I talk to people, I talk in a room of quite a few people, and it's quite active. We're quite moving forward. We're kind of bouncing around ideas, and people are coming up with the suggestions. And I quite like that sort of lively environment when I'm talking to people. But active listening has quite a few components. And active listening really comes from, it's not just hearing what people are saying, it's actually absorbing it and asking the right questions, because active listening is actually almost taking notes. And I do this a lot with patients because I see 40 patients a day. You know, I run a 7 surgery practice as well. And in those interactions with patients, a lot of people will tell you very, very quickly who they are and what they want. And the same in property negotiation. Your agents will be able to tell you things, but you'll also be able to tell quite a lot about people in the first few seconds. I mean, how quickly do we judge people? We judge people very, very quickly within the first few seconds. And I'll tell you about that as well moving forward, about how you can use that to your advantage. Active listening also involves eye contact. As I know I'm looking over here because it's very strange with webinars, but if I look straight at the camera, but eye contact is very important. I mean, you don't want to come across like a psycho. You don't want to come across like you're just staring straight in someone's face all the time. But I think it's very important to show that you are actively engaged with somebody and repeating back to them what they said. One of the systems that you'll learn on one of my webinars and one of my seminars is a system that I put in place for communication called clarify and verify. And clarify and verify is, could you clarify that for me? Because somebody might say, well, the seller is looking for a non-conditional offer on this. And if you don't quite know what that means, ask more questions, but ask good questions. So could you clarify for that? Could you clarify that for me? What did you mean by an unconditional sale? Well, you know, they might have certain caveats that they don't tell you in the first time that they hear it, because when we talk to people, we assume, which is when you make an ass out of you and me, we assume that they know what we're thinking. That's not always the case. So clarify and verify means, can you clarify it and then repeat it back to them? And that's one of the systems that we'll put in place, along with quite a few things for your team, called a courtesy system, which also helps with these things. We look for common ground in rapport. And so finding one of my favorite questions to people is, when you're not doing this, what's your favorite thing to do? And actually that not only helps you engage with the person on a human level, but also at the same time gives you an opportunity that if you have to explain your point of view, you can use that as an analogy. So for instance, if somebody says, oh, I love racing cars, you could talk to them about potentially making a deal more efficient by taking the racing line, so to speak. So there are a lot of analogies that you can use when it comes to building rapport. Hayley, can we go on to the next slide? So this is obviously, well, I say obviously, this is a concept called red table and blue table negotiations. Now, when I am dealing with clients, whether it be property, whether it be stocks, shares, whether it be agents or whatever, whether it be clients, as in patients, one of the questions I always ask myself is this a red table or a blue table negotiation? Now, a red table negotiation is a table or a negotiation where I don't care about the other person. My only focus is getting the best possible deal. I don't need to have an ongoing relationship with this person. So, for example, say I'm buying a secondhand car, for instance, yeah? That to me is a red table negotiation. That is a negotiation where once that car is bought, it's buyer beware. I've basically bought the car. All I need to do is have a look at the car. Is it the right car for me? And moving forward, do I need to have a relationship with the person that I'm buying the car off? No, probably not. So my main aim is just to get the best possible deal. Now that's converse to a blue table negotiation, which is where you have to have an ongoing relationship with that person. So with an agent, for instance, you might be using that agent again. So that's a kind of a blue table negotiation. It could even be a purple table negotiation, a little bit of both. You might be dealing with a business, but not an individual client. And a blue table negotiation is where most negotiations happen, because a blue table negotiation has to be a win-win. So when you're dealing with builders, contractors, that kind of thing, it's pretty important to know the difference between a red table and a blue table negotiation. And one of the things that we discuss in our seminars and webinars is how to tell the difference between the two, but also how to get the best possible deals between the two. Do you want to move forward onto another slide? Right, so poker. Poker is a game that I started about 3 to 5 years ago, playing properly. And the reason I love poker is because it's a game of minds. It's not actually a game of cards at all. And one of the things we do on our webinars and our seminars is when we break for lunch as well, I also set up a poker table, and we will talk about the different aspects of the game. I teach a few people how to play poker. And one of the beautiful things about poker is it's very, very linked to negotiation, because as Kenny Rogers said in his song, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. That's the same at a negotiating table. You got to know what your cards you're holding. You got to know when to pull away from the deal. So if somebody's not giving an inch, those are the times when you've got to think, wait a second here. If they're not giving an inch and the deal's not exactly right for me, maybe I just fold. Maybe I just pull out of this deal at this particular point. And I think there's a lot to be learned there. And we have a lot of fun in our seminars where we just set up a poker table and people can join at lunchtime as and when they want to play a hand. It's a really, really, really fun way of learning about negotiation. And it's about learning to play the player, not the hand. So when you have a hand of cards, whether they're good cards or bad cards, that's not what you're playing in poker. What you're playing is actually the other person. You're guessing what they're thinking. And it's a really good development strategy for actually figuring out how your mind works, what your tells are. And if you're playing with a friend, they'll even tell you, oh, you scratch your nose when you've got good cards. It's an interesting way of learning how to negotiate, which is why we, in our seminars, we tend to try and make things as fun as possible, because we are children at heart. We learn best when we're playing. when we play, I'll also teach you about bluffing. You got to be careful with bluffing, because if you get caught out, it affects everything moving forward. So it's what we call systemized bluffing, actually bluffing when it's your advantage. And the last one, which, I mean, there's plenty of tips, but I'll definitely go through them all on the seminars when we play. Silence. I know this is probably a little bit of a dark art, really, but sometimes I think no response is the best response. For instance, the time it takes you to respond to an email from agents can send quite a good message. If you're in a bidding war, if you reply to email straight away, it can almost create a sort of emotional reaction from you when you're watching the emails. I have a habit of even going a bit darker than that and leaving messages on read when I'm negotiating with people, to make them think that sometimes I don't care as much as I actually do about the deal. So they need to feel sometimes that I'm willing to walk away. There are a few dark arts when it comes to these things, which I'm definitely happy to teach you about. And poker is a lot of fun, especially when you do it in a seminar as well. And we have a few people playing, it's a good laugh. And we can definitely learn how, once we do the feedback sessions afterwards, we can figure out each other's tells. Very good fun. Can you go on to the next slide for me, Hayley? Okay, so personality types. Well, I don't know how much of you guys have done, but there are actually 4 distinct personality types. And that also means there are 4 different communication styles as well. Now, most of us, when we are negotiating or when we're communicating, we communicate within our own style. Now, the 4 ones, there are direct people. Now, direct people basically tell you what it is, what they want, and will it work? That's the only thing they care about. They're usually people like yourselves. They usually just give me the detail. Just send me the main points and I'll figure out yes or no whether I want to do it. The second type is influential people. Influential people, they tend to look good. They have their nails done. They have their makeup done. And these people care about how things feel. So they will walk into a house and they will feel whether it's right for them or not. There are lots and lots of different aspects of characters of these people, which I will go through in details. These people are very easy to bring up because not only are they very influential, they're also very influenceable as well. So you can actually make them feel happy by raising your tonality, by going up at the end of conversations, and you can bring them down very easily using the techniques that I can teach you. So these are very important skills when you learn, when you're dealing with buyers, especially. Or even agents or builders. And then you've got your safe people. This is the third type. So safe people, they care about whether it's healthy. They care about whether the deal has minimal risk in there. And everyone is born this way. You're born one or the other. You do develop as you have kids and you get burned a few times. But essentially, the third one is about safety, the S-type personality, or dolphins as we like to call them. These guys will take quite a lot on the chin. They're quite easy to negotiate with. They're very amiable. They're very nice people. So you've got your direct, you've got your influential and influencers, and then you've got your safe people. I like working with safe people a lot because I just think it's fantastic to have somebody that is so kind and caring when it comes to working with. I think it works really well. And the last type is complicated people, as I call them. And these are our C-type personalities. So if we label them D-I-S-C, disc personalities, we can start to figure out what type of person we're dealing with. Now, C-type personalities want detail. They want lots and lots and lots of detail. They won't go into a deal unless they have every piece of information available to them on that day. So what I'm going to teach in our webinars and our seminars is basically how to interpret which personality type they are. So if we think Alan Sugar, we think direct. If we think Victoria Beckham, we think influencer, influential, that kind of person. If we think a nurse or someone in the caring sort of industries, like Princess Diana or someone like that, she would be a dolphin. She'd be an S-type personality. Sorry, I've got different animals that I use to compare these as well. And a detailed, complicated person is going to be an engineer or someone like James Dyson. He's going to want every single detail before he makes a decision. Now, the trick to communicating is knowing what type of person you're dealing with. So, for instance, if I get a direct person in, I'll usually be able to tell who he is because he'll have nice clothes, he'll have designer label shoes on, but they won't be looked after. And I will say to him, "How's your holiday?" And he'll just say, "Fine." Or I'll say, "Oh, that's a nice car." He goes, "Yeah, thanks." It's not going to be "Oh, I really like it." It's this sort of thing, because these people, when they go into negotiations, they are very direct. And you need to be able to respond to them in that same way. Give them the facts. If you start rambling on, then they won't engage with you, because you will end up in a situation where they turn off because it's too much detail for them. Influential people as well, when you see them across the room in the negotiating table, you need to be able to get them in a good mood. You need to be able to change their state. Because if they're in a bad mood, they're not going to give you what you want. So with those sorts of people as well, you'll notice how they dress. Now that you know this information, you'll be able to kind of help those people. You'll be able to communicate with those people in a very effective way. And then you've got safe people. Well, safe people, you just want to be open. You know, it's going to be talking about minimizing risks in that deal. And they will be wearing comfortable clothes. They're not going to be wearing designer labels. They're not going to be wearing the latest Vivienne Westwood top or something like that. They'll be in a nice jacket. They'll be in a nice suit. They'll be in or whatever sort of comfortable kind of clothing you would be in. And they're not going to be wearing bright red lipstick. It's going to be a sort of safer option. And those people you want to talk about minimizing risk with. And then your final one is your C-type personalities. These guys, engineers, they're going to be wearing very practical clothes. They're going to probably be dressed by someone else because they wouldn't have been able to make the decision without the details at the time. But these guys love detail. And what you've got to do in a negotiation with these guys is give them every piece of information, but they won't make decisions on the day. And actually, that's not a bad strategy, is that when you're on a negotiating table, don't necessarily make decisions there and then. Write things down. Say, "I can get back to you on that." You don't need to, in a negotiation, make every decision there and then. And actually, that type of personality, the C-type personality, won't be making those sort of decisions there and then anyway. They'll come back to you a few weeks later once they've had some more information off your team. And some more information. We've all come across those people that can't make those sort of decisions. And the trick with those is give them the information. Let them have the time to just absorb everything. Let them talk to a few other people. And you know what? Once you give those sort of people the time and all the information, they will come back to you and they will be your clients for life. Because once you've given them those sort of details, they will be so happy that they've got somebody that understands that they need that. Because a lot of people try to force this type of personality into making decisions. That's not what it's about. It's about letting them just settle and give them the time. Can we go on to the next one? Okay, so this is something I picked up off one of the best seminars I ever did, which is called Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. And the 5 human needs are cemented into our core. They are basically the essence of why we do everything that we do. And I haven't listed them here on the slide, but I'll tell you them. The 5 human needs and 2 extras, which I'll give you as well, are significance, the need to feel important. Yeah. If you've ever got a team that you're working with, or an employee, or even your children, or anything like that, a lot of the reasons why people do things is for attention. And significance is the need to feel important. It's the reason why one person might drive a Ferrari to work and the other person might just drive a Vauxhall Corsa, because that need to feel important is how capitalism works. That's the reason why somebody will spend £2,000 on a handbag and somebody will spend £50 on a handbag, because it makes them feel important. And that's what brands sell, and that's significance. Significance also happens when people get angry. If people don't feel significant, they can get very angry. "Do you not know who I am?" is a very sort of bold, significant statement that people try to make. And you need to be able to manage that emotional need quite a lot within your team. The second one is certainty. People have a need to minimize their risks. They want to feel like they've got a roof over their head. They want to feel like they have everyone's got a financial barometer where they know that I need this much money in my account, and after that I need to actually start saving. I think most people have that as well. And certainty is about making sure that I'm safe. I've got a few other, I don't want too much uncertainty. But uncertainty is also a human need. So that's the third one. So you've got significant certainty and uncertainty. Well, how can you have the two, certainty and uncertainty, as human needs? Well, as human beings, we need to know that we're safe, but at the same time, we like lots of excitement, lots of variety, and that's uncertainty. And I always say that your quality of life is directly proportional to how much uncertainty you can take in your life. So what you find is the people that take more risks, in general, tend to have a better quality of life, as long as they're not doing stupid stuff. But that's where your certainty comes in. And the fourth one is growth. You wouldn't be on this webinar if you didn't want growth. But if human beings aren't growing, we're dying. And learning is a great way of doing that. Growth can be financial, it can be familial, it can be any sort of aspect of that. But growth is very important as well. And that's the fourth one. So if you have a member of your team that's not particularly happy, there are two ways that when I know if I'm employing somebody, when somebody comes to me and they say, why did you leave your previous job? A lot of it is I either wasn't feeling appreciated, so that's significant, or I kind of reached a dead end and I wasn't really growing. And at that point, you know what you have to do in order to be able to give that person some growth. So you give them a way forward working with you. And the last one is connection. Connection is really important. If we're not connecting with people, then essentially we're going to start going a bit crazy. And this lockdown has probably proved that quite a lot. And, right at the start, everyone was on Zoom conferences, chatting with friends and all sorts. It was quite difficult for quite a lot of people. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Castaway with Tom Hanks, and he's stuck on a desert island on his own, and he's stuck there for years. And one of the things he's got is a volleyball from a package that was shipwrecked with him, and he paints a face on the ball, and he calls it Wilson. And what happens is he starts to talk to Wilson, and that is how deep the human need for connection goes. That actually it's very real that people create alternate personalities when they're lacking in connection. So if people feel like they're lacking in connection, they'll do pretty much anything to get it. And actually that's the same with all 5 of those 5 human needs. The trick to the human needs thing is actually knowing how to manipulate it. And I don't mean that in a negative way, although people do use it in a negative way. So for instance, let me say about these 5, is that if you hit 3 of these with any activity you're doing, that activity or that product will become addictive. If you hit 4, it becomes obsessive. And if you hit 5, then it becomes life encompassing. So let's look at, say, for instance, the biggest companies in the world. So let's look at Apple. Why is Apple so successful? Well, what is it about an Apple product that makes it so good? Well, for the first thing, it hits the first human need, significance. If I have a new Apple iPhone, I'm going to show you about it. I'm going to show you, there's my new Apple iPhone. I've got it. It's great. I feel very happy about it. It's not cheap. It's expensive. And that's what gives significance. I'm the first person to have it. La, 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 la. So I'm significant. Apple hits significance very well. They don't sell cheap products. What else does it do? Well, it's got certainty. Well, every time I pick up my iPhone, it's pretty much the same. I know how to use it every time. If I pick up my wife's iPhone and I need to send a message or something, I pick up her phone and I know how to use it. That's one thing that people say about Apple products, is that they work every single time. Not always the case, but actually that's what they did say. The next thing is variety. Every time you download an app, it gives you more variety on your phone. You download a new backdrop, you can customize it. So at the same time, it gives you a bit of significance because it's different, but at the same time, it gives you variety. There's lots of apps, there's lots of different things that you can do. And then you've got growth. Every time Apple launches an update, you get an update that makes your phone better, and that's growth. And connection, well, what does a phone do? A phone connects you. So wait a second here. We've got something that not hits 3 of these. We've got a product that hits all 5 of these things. And that's why they're the most successful company in the world. Same with Facebook. How significant do I feel when I get lots of likes? I feel very significant. Oh, look at me. I'm really popular. I've got lots of friends. Certainty. What do people hate most about Facebook? When they change things on their layout, essentially what that does is it means that people don't like it. They don't like the fact they have to look for stuff, and that takes away their certainty. They like the variety because every time I launch up my newsfeed, I get lots of new things. And they like the growth because every time you get new friends, you grow, you read a few articles. And connection, well, that's their logo. And these are the biggest and most expensive companies in the world. The two extras are spirituality and giving. I always believe in giving as much as possible, and spirituality, knowing that you're not just the only things in the world. The two extras are not important to stay alive and to stay sane, but they are important for a fulfilled life. And we can go through that as well. Hayley, do you want to go on the next slide? Reading faces. This is more just what we're going to do as well in our seminars and webinars. Reading faces is very important. Faces have been adapted over human evolution to be able to explain how somebody is feeling. Explain how somebody is feeling without actually sorry, reading some of these comments here. Explain how somebody is feeling without actually speaking. There are three tenets for communication. There are words, there's tonality, and body language. But also, if you add in facial expressions in there, that's also pretty important. The facial micro expressions are expressions that people give for a microsecond before their conscious brain comes into play. So one thing that I will teach on our webinars and our seminars as well is how to read somebody's micro expression before they realize that they're supposed to be thinking a certain way. And those micro expressions only happen for a flash second. And I'll play some videos as well at some point in our seminars as well to show you how people are thinking before their brain kicks in and tells them they're supposed to be thinking a certain way. And if you can read those micro expressions, you can get down to exactly what people are thinking. And that's very important. Body language interpretations, I'm sure you guys are really smart. You can probably read body language a mile off, whether you're open, whether you're closed. Body language is very important, especially for women, actually, I find. When you're sitting opposite, when you're negotiating with a man, ideally never sit straight on to them. Because if you're sitting straight on, it comes across as very dominant. Whereas if you're negotiating with a woman, it's fine, because actually what women want to see in general, and I know I'm probably coming across a bit sexist, but there is a difference between them. Women want to see your hands, they want to see that you're open. Men tend to take face-on confrontation as confrontational. There are ways of sitting. If I sit like this, for instance, I come across probably quite arrogant. If I sit like this, I come across quite open. There are things that we will definitely work on and we'll definitely teach in our seminars moving forward. Sorry, do you want to go on to the next slide for me, Hayley? This is one of the tricks that I learned quite early on. I used to sell mobile phones. You know, I said I failed a lot. I've gone through a lot of businesses. I've succeeded a lot and I've failed a lot. That's just my mindset. Priming. These are very simple tricks. I always put this one in because I always think it's hilarious. We actually did an experiment when we used to work over in the Trafford Centre selling mobile phones. And what we did is one of our friends would ask a passerby if they could hold a drink for them while they just tied their laces or picked up something or just held their bag. And the drink was either warm or either hot or it was cold. And then what we did is we actually got one of our other colleagues to ask the same person as they went past whether they would fill out a survey for us. And it was just a simple survey about their mobile phones or whatever. And what we found is that if the person who gave them the drink in the first place gave them a warm drink or a hot drink, they then interpreted that person who dealt with them as being a warm personality. And if they gave them an ice cold drink, they interpreted the person in front of them as being a cold personality when they shook their hand. So it's actually, as human beings, we are very conditionable. There are very simple things. By having a warm drink on a table, in a negotiating table, even if you're in quite a confrontational mood, you can come across a lot warmer. If you have cold drinks, you can change things. And these are they've got a lot of these tricks that can help people in negotiating tables as well. Moving on to the next slide for me, Hayley. Compromise, well, Nelson Mandela said this, I think. Compromise, it either enriches you or destroys you. How many times have you gone into a negotiation? If I say to you, let's say I'm going to buy a house, say for instance, and I put in an offer, say the house is 160 grand, and I put in an offer for 140, and they accept it straight away. What's your thinking? Well, your thinking is going to be probably the same as mine. I've gone in too high. If they're going to accept the first offer that I put in, I've gone in too bloody high. What the hell was I thinking? And that's what I mean, is actually you need to know where you're coming from. That's why you never accept the first offer. Well, I say never, but in general, you never accept the first offer that someone gives you, because that's not a negotiation. Because actually it doesn't work for anybody then. Even if I'm just being nice and say to the person, okay, I'll accept your offer at 140. That person is not going to feel good about it. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to renege on the deal later on. So you need to be able to put up a bit of a fight. Because one of the things I always say to people is, I think what's on the next slide, is it Hayley? Could you just go on to the next one? Yeah. And I think I said this before. The quality of your life is directly proportional to the number of difficult conversations you're willing to have. So not putting up a fight is actually a bad thing. What you need to do in order to be able to have the best communication and the best psychology moving forward is be able to have those difficult conversations. Because if you don't have those difficult conversations, you're going to end up in a situation where people will walk all over you. And I think that brings us to the end of the communication slide. And I look forward to seeing you all again at some point. I'm sure it would be absolutely fantastic to meet you all. Hayley, have you got anything to add? I can't hear you. Do I need to do something? Have I screwed up somewhere?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you now. Yeah, I got you now.
Brilliant. That's great. You know, Neil, every time you invite me to play poker, I always refuse. Although I actually think that we would play a very good game of poker.
I think it would be good fun.
So thank you for that. That was brilliant. Lots and lots of insights there, and some really good tips as well. We do actually have some questions. Have you got time to hang around for a bit?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So some of these questions may actually be around property, and some may be, you know, which we can both look at, and some may just be around the topic that you've just spoken about. So I'll just have a quick look through. So we've got one from Katrina here. Hi, Katrina. So it says, good morning, Hayley. Katrina here from Holland. I have a question on mortgages coming through since March and the COVID-19 crisis. Do you know of anyone or anybody who's got their mortgages approved and paid out after March? I hear about friend investors with an amazing track record that are waiting endlessly and left hanging. So Katrina, like I said earlier in the update, you know, there are mortgages that are being approved. You've got, and they are moving forward very slowly. So I know that quite a few people have had their mortgages approved, but drawdown of funds, not yet, no. But it's still very soon. So you know, we always talk to you and say that the conveyancing process, if you are purchasing with a mortgage, and then you're of course going through all of your searches, etc., allow 3 months maximum it should take. Now, of course, there's a backlog there. Banks are also feeling that backlog, as well as every other industry, and they're having to get through it slowly. So lending is taking a lot longer than normal. And normally, you know, we can get a mortgage through within 4 to 8 weeks normally, but I would say to you 3 months is probably going to be the lead time there. And that's if you are, you know, a good solid bet. So, you know, you've got a track record. If you're investing through a limited company structure, the company owns assets, and you know, you've got proof of funds, etc., and a good credit rating. It is still taking that long time to get these applications through. So this is why I say, you know, be patient. Everyone is in exactly the same boat. Unless you're purchasing cash, everybody else is going through exactly the same thing as you, and it is going to be the people with the patience to actually stick it out and answer all of the additional questions that will actually move forward with the lending. So yes, nobody has drawn down on funds from what I know of yet. What about you, Neil? Have you got any of your friends that have actually been able to get finance through during this lockdown?
I spoke to a lady. I spoke to a lady on Monday, one of my patients, and she had a situation where her house had sold pre-COVID. The buyers had pulled out during the lockdown. She knocked her price down a little bit, and she knocked the price of the house that they were buying down a little bit as well. and they managed to get it. So I think mortgages that are pre-approved are absolutely fine. I've ended up buying a couple for cash. Because I'm like the clients that you were saying that just can't be bothered with the paperwork. As you can imagine, as far as the personality types go, I'm a monkey. I haven't got time for that. So I bought a few for cash just to get the right deal at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, cash, of course, is going through no problem at all and no holdups there. Just to give you an idea, guys, of Neel, as in you probably know him quite well after watching him for the last hour. But normal people call me up and ask me about commercial developments or ask me about purchasing a HMO or a buy-to-let. Neel calls me up about purchasing 4.5 acres of land, and he wants to do clay pigeon shooting on there. So because he wants to shoot. So Katrina, hopefully that answers your question. There are mortgages that are being accepted, so there's lots of mortgage officers that are being put out there, but the drawdown of funds is just going to take longer, but it's to be expected. Everybody is delayed, so have patience there and understand the situation is actually out of everyone's control. Your team are doing the best they possibly can to push this through. If it's a good deal, it will get, the money will find. You will always find the money for the deal if it's a good deal. Can I ask, so this is from Charmaine. Can I ask if the builders are late by 2 to 3 months due to lockdown and raw material shortage, can we negotiate a discount to the original builder quote? So this comes down to relationships, doesn't it? And Neel kind of touched on this during his presentation just now. This builder, if you are, especially if you are international and you are working with a build team that's local and that's an area you want to grow in and purchase more properties, then I would say no. This is not the fault of the builder. They are not running behind schedule because they have taken on too many jobs and they've let your job slide, or they have made mistakes in not ordering the materials or getting the correct trade in properly. It's not down to the project management here, it's down to the situation. So personally, that relationship would be worth more to me than actually discounting on any builder's quotes that I've already had.
That's what we were talking about, a blue table negotiation, because in that situation you want to have an ongoing relationship with that builder, and what you don't want to do is them just to walk off the build, because if they do that then you're stuffed.
Yeah, and I do know a couple of international investors that have done that. And then, for a new build team to come in partway through project is pretty difficult to get sorted out. Those relationships in business is everything, isn't it? If you are good at building relationships but better at keeping them, you will always do good business, in my opinion. Yeah,
your network is your net worth, basically.
Exactly. Brilliant. Couldn't have said that better myself. Have we got any more questions here? Emotions?
I think Michael's put quite a lot about his expression, his views on this. That's great. Yeah, I mean, Michael, pretty much everything you said is absolutely right. You can learn a lot of this. There's a TV show by Tim with Tim Roth in it, called Lie to Me. He talks about micro expressions. That can help you a lot. Transactional analysis, we'll definitely cover that. Certainly in our seminars we talk about whether you come across as a parent, an adult, or a child, and how you can push people into different directions if you want to. That's more a red table negotiation tactic, being able to get people to be defensive in order to be able to get the best possible results. I wouldn't recommend it all the time, trying to put people into children mode by becoming a parent in that kind of situation and trying to push people, but it is an effective negotiation tactic should you need it. No, I'm not a mentalist. I'm a dentist, but my wife sometimes thinks I'm mental, if that works.
I think she'd be right.
How big of an impact has NLP had on my personal and business life? Well, I'm a master practitioner of NLP. I did NLP. I was one of the first people that introduced NLP into dentistry. I deal a lot with very nervous clients. Our practice deals with a lot of very phobic and very anxious patients. So when they come into when I speak to them on the phone, or when they come into the practice, I now listen to the words that they use to describe how their brain communicates with them. So for instance, if somebody says, I see that you were on this magazine, or I heard about you from a friend, I will know whether they are visual or whether they're auricular. And I will use those phrases to them. So when I'm trying to overcome their fears, I will use words like, how does that sound? Or do you see what I mean? Depending on whether they are visual or whether they're auricular or whether they're kinesthetic. If they're kinesthetic, they will say, I feel very nervous. And I will use those words as well. So NLP, I use it with my kids all the time and they don't notice it, but it actually works incredibly well with my children. It doesn't work on my wife at all, but that's one of those things. But NLP is very useful because it allows you, it's one of those things where you can tell what somebody is thinking by looking at which way their eyes move. If their eyes move up to the right, they're recalling past things in the past that have happened to them. If they move up to the left, they're forming new memories. These are things we cover in really good detail in my webinars and seminars on NLP, and it's fascinating to learn if you don't know much about it, but it is very, very, it's very important stuff. Sorry, do you want to carry on, Hayley?
Yeah, brilliant. So we have one from Zemar. So I have a friend who is resident in Spain. He wants to create a company in England and open a business bank account in London. All the banks I've spoke to refuse to open a business bank account for someone who is not a UK resident. How do the foreign investors open up the business accounts in their name as opposed to in a JV, which is a joint venture partner, who is a UK resident? One company I spoke to suggested that we use a company who offers a nominee director service. Okay, so as you know, Zemar, or I'm not sure whether you do actually, I know we've spoken quite a lot, but I don't think you're one of our mentees. But we actually do have relationships with banks, and we do open up your UK limited company while you are here in the UK, or if you are doing the virtual mentorship, we do that as well. And we will actually get you a bank account with that. So we look at a few different banks now, but it comes down to the relationships. But if you are looking through your own personal name, it can be more difficult. Through a limited company, we've got pretty much, I think it's something like 98% success rate since January. And so, you know, in terms of opening, you do need a bank account here in the UK in order to purchase property. So you will need to do that. But if you want to email me separately, I can go through a few different options. Or if you could get your friend who is looking to do that to book themselves on one of our free calls, and we can obviously talk about that to them then. Okay, hopefully, but it is doable, and we do it every single time on mentorship. And some of the guys that are actually on the call now can actually verify that their bank account has been opened during the mentorship. So actually by day 3 of mentorship, or a couple of days after, while they are still here in the UK, we have their UK bank account opened. Happy clients make the world go round. That's true. Tide Bank, yeah, Tide is a very good online bank, and we have used them as well in the past, and still do use them. We don't have any more questions on there, Neil. Are you okay for time?
Yeah, I'm fine for time.
Just a couple of minutes, because we're running a little bit over. So I've got a question for you.
Okay. Now I'm nervous.
So I do ask this question every single week, but I know that you live in a Playboy mansion and you have everything, you know, in terms of leisure and entertainment, it's like an adult's playground. So this is probably going to be, lockdown probably hasn't been very much, other than the communication side and actually being with people, which I know you love to do. You've probably actually been able to have quite a lot of fun at home. If I had to be in lockdown in anybody's house, it would be yours. But all that being said, what have you noticed most about yourself during lockdown?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I've had to confront a few realities, I think as most people do. I mean, my business closed. I mean, my main business is dentistry, and obviously that's only just opening up again. I think a lot of it has been how I identify with myself. And one of the main ways I identify with myself is probably as a dentist, but actually I've had to change that. Over the last few weeks, I've become more of a father. I've spent more time with my kids. And, you know, we've kind of spent a lot of time just reading and going through bits and pieces. I think I've had to confront a few issues myself. I think like you touched on it there, the connection thing. I'm a very social person, and being kept away from my friends and family has been incredibly tough. And I've had to come up with, I haven't started painting volleyballs with Wilson's face on them just yet, but, you know, I've had to come up with a lot of strategies. As far as lockdown's gone, it's been tough, I think, for everyone. But how has it changed me? I think I've valued things a lot more. The things that I took for granted before, I've started to value them a lot more. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Brilliant. That's great. And then one other question for you. What book would you recommend to our listeners?
Oh, I've got a library. If I had to recommend, I'll recommend a couple. There's one which is absolutely the seminal artwork of the seminal book of all of this, which is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is quite literally just the best book. I mean, I know it was written in the 60s or 70s, but it still stands up today because human beings don't change. The second one is a really good book called Yes. It's got a carrot on the front. It's just called Yes, ! And some of the tricks and tips that you pick up in those sort of books are absolutely unbelievable. And it's a very funny, very easy read as well, because there's lots of stories in it. And as far as negotiation ones, there's one that's just been written by an ex-FBI negotiator, and it's phenomenal. It's called Never Split the Difference. And I have to say that was an utterly brilliant book as well. So those are my three. Yeah, but the Dale Carnegie one, if you don't have I must have bought more copies for other people than I think half the sales on Amazon are probably for me, because I just think it's a brilliant book.
Brilliant. That's great. Awesome. Thank you. So I don't think we have any more questions on there. You've kind of answered a lot of the questions as we've gone along. I think what we'll do is we'll say thank you very much to you, Neel. Thank you for joining me on my virtual sofa. And
it's been amazing. Really enjoyed it.
Bless you. It's an awesome session, but you are of course doing a course for your Freedom Empire as well, aren't you? So we are actually going to be doing a course for the art of communication and negotiation, and of course Neel is our well, you're actually developing and have written course. So he is, of course, the course trainer and has created the course for you guys as well. So this will be a course that will be available through Your Freedom Empire, and it is coming soon. So we will let you all know when that's available, and you can go and take a look. Okay, so thank you very much for your session. We've got lots of thank yous coming through for you as well there in the chat box. But have a great time in London, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Right. Bye.
So guys, what we're going to do now is I'm just going to quickly run you through any updates that we have. Hopefully you enjoyed that session. Neel is an awesome guy, and like I said, a very good friend of mine, and he's very modest. He is super successful. He plays it down very well, but I'm sure you can agree his way of being able to identify what people like and you know, what makes people tick is I love negotiation, and actually communicating with him, I can tell that he's very good at this type of thing, and you pick up on different things, and he is very good at reading people. So in terms of that art of communication, building relationships and negotiation, he is your go-to guy, and a very, very experienced guy in that arena. So a few updates then. So we have, of course, our website has been live for a few weeks now, and we have various different courses around financial education. We have business courses through there, health and nutrition, and of course we have all of our property investment courses as well. These courses are all available online, or for you to purchase immediately, or you can book in-class trainings. So there are some of the rent-to-rent courses and the service accommodation. there are dates that are available that you can book on. For those of you that are doing refreshers, the first date is in July, but whether we are able to stick to that date at this moment in time, depending on the numbers, we will have to see through government guidelines. But at the moment, it is still set for July. So have a look at the website, guys. Sign up to the affiliate program. For those of you that have done our training, talk to people about it. You know, we always get excellent feedback, and word of mouth is always the best form of advertising, in my opinion. So earn while you recommend us. Why not? We have, of course, the training tracks. So this is something we put together so that, you know, if you were looking to achieve different things or coming in at different levels of knowledge or different levels of finance, tracks that would suit you to get you to where you want to go quicker, more efficiently, and safely as well. So we created 3 live tracks. So that is the Alpha track, the Innovation track, and the Success track. So those are available for you to go and have a look at and have a read about, see what tracks suit you best, and recommend to friends, etc. But of course, we now as well have the online version, so you can actually take those training tracks 100% online. We also have the virtual property wealth mentorship, which is again online. So this is full 3 days with your mentor, your chosen mentor. You get access to all of the networking events, etc. You get access to your platform, so your sourcing platform with your 33 investment areas, 22 sourcing agents, state-of-the-art system. You get access to the power team. You get your limited company structure set up. You get your bank account open. So we can actually do all of it now online. So for those of you that are still nervous about traveling into the UK and you are looking for an alternative option, that will be a very good option for you. Of course, we still do the live mentorships as well. So the 3 full days, and then of course the support then after as well, and that hold hand in from your mentor, your full power team, and your sourcing platform, etc. Of course, again, we have the serviced accommodation, which is a big question over people's minds at the moment. So understanding your market is, you know, it is something that you need to understand now more than ever. So how to adapt and change your business so that you are not taking a hit on your revenue due to COVID-19, and actually how you can thrive through these times rather than actually decline. So of course, again, we had the lovely Kate and Louise on a few weeks ago. It might have been longer than that. I have no concept of time anymore. But they, of course, have their health and nutrition online course as well. So power your way through to success through health and nutrition. So looking at ourselves overall, which is really important. And I was talking to Neel a little bit earlier on before we came on this call. And it's my birthday on Monday. So I'm actually, for my birthday, I've got a whole load of nutrition stuff and different supplements, etc., which is supposed to be reversing my age. So by time next week, hopefully I'll look 21 again. So fingers crossed. So of course, looking after ourselves, making sure that we are running at you know, our best, and we're happy internally, and not just for Facebook or Instagram, and so everybody else can see, but looking at us overall, not only in our mind but in our body as well. And so have a look at that. You can book that online now. And then, of course, these have been really, really running well. We had quite a lot of calls throughout this week. And of course, we're continuing to do them. So as a gift to you guys, there's no upsell here. And those of you that have had the calls can liaise with each other and say, it is purely just to talk about your situation and if there's anything we can do to help. So giving you a few tricks and tips to help you out of any sticky situation that you are in right now. So this is our way of giving back to you. So it is a half an hour session. As you can imagine, there's been quite a high uptake in these calls. while we are here at home and still in lockdown, we will continue to do these calls and help you in any situation, or help you out of any situation we possibly can. But it really is there just to talk about you, your situation, direct you in the right directions, and to answer any questions that you may have that you don't particularly want to ask during a webinar section. Of course, pop free call in there and send a request over to admin@yourfreedomempire.co.uk, and myself or one of our mentors will book a call with you, and we will go through you and your situation. And then, of course, we have a lot of people. So we've got 400 plus people on these webinars, and not everybody, we've had a very low number today, but then we'll have loads of people that will watch the replay on YouTube. There is quite a lot of people that do that, and I get questions that come through every single week, and it works very well, guys. You don't necessarily have to watch live. We're more than happy for you to watch the replay on YouTube. And ask your questions via email. It's okay for you to do that. So for those of you that can't make it each week, and I know a lot of people are we're coming out of the lockdown, a lot of you are back at work now, so it's more difficult. It doesn't mean that you can't get your questions answered. So send your emails and your questions through to admin@yourfreedomempire.co.uk. and pop in the subject box there, webinar questions, and we will address your questions in each section. So, guys, I'm going to ask a favour of you, just spinning off the psychology that Neel was talking about earlier. We are looking to grow our YouTube channel, our LinkedIn, our Instagram, through Your Freedom Empire. So, of course, a lot of you have been following me and Paul, throughout our journey so far, and we've been in the industry for a long time. But not many of you know of our company, which is Your Freedom Empire, and we're actually looking to grow that now. So although we've contracted through Your Freedom Empire, and that's what we have done for many, many years, we've done it through various different businesses. But this is the business for our training now, and we're looking to grow this. So if I can ask a favour of you, so a gift back to me, I suppose, for these calls and the webinars that we've been putting on each week. Tell your friends about us. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Leave a comment, and all of this helps to grow our page, and we very much appreciate it. But guys, thank you for that, and thank you for your time again this week. I'll thank Neel again. Absolute awesome session. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But until next week, I will love you and leave you. Stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.